My wife Mary and I started Armenian Film Society in 2015, and really at the time we felt like there wasn't a effective way to showcase Armenian films, connect with Armenian filmmakers. My background is in film, and I was making films at the time, and I remember just feeling the lack of opportunity, the opportunity both to connect with other filmmakers within the community, and also there wasn't a space to go to screenings. There wasn't really a space to watch Armenian films, and those things were happening, but they weren't happening in the way that we felt that they should be. They were too few and far in between. We felt like there was a lot of films, both short films, feature films, that we wanted to be able to showcase. And so we started Armenian Film Society 2015. We started initially partnering with Aubrey Books in Glendale, and we started doing monthly screenings with them. And so on the first Friday of every month, we would host a film screening, a discussion with filmmakers, and we did that for the first 5 years. And it went really well. There was a great response from the community. We had a lot of people who would come to our events because we were showing films that either they had never seen before or they had seen many, many years ago. And those events kept growing in size. We had a great response. And we very quickly realized that we could start growing the organization sort of in the way that we had first talked about many years prior. And so really the organization grew during COVID, because when COVID happened, we had to cancel all of our in-person events. And because we had been an organization that would host in-person events, we had suddenly lost our home and our venue. And because we had sort of started with very limited means and resources, we couldn't necessarily plan for a future where we didn't have access to a dedicated space. And so what we did was we started hosting virtual events on Instagram. We were one of the first to start doing Instagram lives, and I would interview filmmakers because everybody was home and everybody was able to hop on a quick video interview, and we would publish that on our Instagram. That became really the shift for Armenian Film Society, because we very quickly realized that there was a whole audience that had never been able to participate in our events because we were limited and focusing only on LA. And suddenly we had Armenians in other cities, other states, other countries being able to be a part of our events. And that allowed us to open a whole new door for Armenian Film Society. During that time, we also became a nonprofit, and we started expanding the focus of the organization. We started becoming a news and information source. So we started publishing news about Armenians in the industry, and finding a way to collect everything that was happening. And after sort of COVID was over, we had built out a plan for what the future of the organization would look like. We couldn't go back to Aubrey Books for our events because they had moved locations and gone into a different space. But during that period, we started thinking about what is the next chapter of Armenian Film Society. And a lot of that is what you see today. And a lot of that kind of speaks to a lot of the changes that we've made as an organization. So we started off very small and focused on very niche events within the community. And during COVID, we started kind of laying out the foundation for what all of this would look like moving past that. Our key goals and our mission has been to amplify Armenian stories, connect Armenians in the industry, and really put on programming that appeals to a broader audience, so non-Armenians as well. All of our events are in English, or if the film is in Armenian, there's English subtitles, so non-Armenians are welcome to all of our events. And our goal has been able to educate, inform, and connect filmmakers and film lovers together. Our main sort of primary focus has been events, because Again, I think there's nothing better than an event where you can come and watch a film and then be able to interact with both the filmmakers and other film lovers, like yourself. But really, I think what we've done in the past year is expand beyond the events. We've started partnering with other organizations, many of whom are non-Armenian, like the American Cinematheque, and recently with Vidiot's. We've really focused heavily on content, both from a news and information standpoint, but also doing written interviews and features on our website. And I think the biggest focus has been just to be the destination for anything related to Armenian film. It's incredible. So there's two things. The American Cinematheque in April reached out to us, and for those who are not familiar with the American Cinematheque, they're one of the longest running nonprofit, film, theaters and organizations in LA. And my wife and I used to go to all of those events. That's where we would watch independent films, foreign films. And when they reached out to us, they said they wanted to showcase an Armenian film. And they actually recommended to us 3 weeks in Yerevan as something that they wanted to screen. So we had a lot of non-Armenians there. And that film is in Armenian. It's about Armenian characters who are making a movie in Armenia. And that was one of the first instances. We've always had non-Armenians come to our events, but that was one of the first instances where we had a lot of non-Armenians who weren't necessarily our followers. They were people who learned about the event through American Cinematheque. And we talked a lot with the people that were there, and the feedback we got was, we live in LA, we're very familiar with the Armenian community, but we've never seen an Armenian film. We've never seen Armenian stories on the big screen. And so that was very reassuring. Last week, we had the Parajanov screening at Vidiot's. And again, in that case, they came to us and they said that they were interested in showcasing Parajanov's film, The Color of Pomegranates. And they asked if we would be presenters on that film. It's a 250-seat theater, and 95% of the audience was non-Armenians.
Right.
And it was incredible because here we have a very artistic film that's very Armenian, and the majority of the audience there showed up because they've either heard of Sergei Parajanov, they've heard of The Color of Pomegranates, but they wanted to use this as an opportunity to understand a little bit more of what does an Armenian film look like. What is, I grew up watching Romanian films and Greek films and Italian films, French films, and it allows me to get a look at those cultures and better understand those groups of people. And so the feedback, the reception is great because everybody there was excited. They saw a masterpiece of a film. And they got to walk away with a little bit more of an understanding of, what the Armenian community is like, what the culture is like. And so that was one of the big highlights for us. We've had a lot of partnerships over the years. Obviously, Abril Books has been a long time partner of ours. They have a very dedicated community who are interested in film and music and arts. And we're planning on collaborating with them for this year's film festival. We've always opened up our door to other organizations and groups. One of the reasons why we started Armenian Film Society was because we wanted to promote collaboration within the Armenian community. That's another thing that was very important to us that I felt like at the time was lacking, that sometimes in the Armenian community, we tend to do things a little bit, individually, and we're all a little siloed off. And our goal was to keep our doors open to anybody that wants to collaborate with us and partner with us. So we've reached out to a lot of different groups, Armenian groups, and we've had a lot of great partnerships with them. But our goal is to continue doing more of that, promote that kind of collaboration, because we never want to be the organization that keeps others shut out of their community. We always want to be able to partner with other groups who have either similar missions and goals or want to collaborate. So we've collaborated, I think, at this point with a lot of the big organizations, but we're always interested in doing more. Mary and I had been talking about doing a film festival for many, many years. It's actually one of the first things that we talked about when we first started planning Armenian Film Society, but it never felt like the timing was right. We felt like it was important for us to grow our community. We wanted to see what the response was, both from the Armenian community and non-Armenian community. And then right before COVID, we started planning a film festival. And at the time, interestingly, we were talking about doing a virtual film festival. I think because we had seen what the response was, through others from around the world, and we wanted them to feel like they were a part of it. And I'm actually, we're glad that we didn't do a film festival during that time, because we realized that filmmakers don't necessarily enjoy virtual film festivals. They want to be able to share their films with others and participate in in-person events. We have other plans for how to do more virtual events in the future, but it's very important for us to have an in-person event, in Glendale, and to be able to celebrate those films. And then the timing worked out because, as you said, this is the 100-year anniversary of Armenian films, and we had sort of thought about doing something special around that, and that ended up becoming the film festival. And so we're using this as an opportunity to celebrate the 100-year anniversary of Armenian films and to be able to usher in the next 100 years. So this festival is hopefully kind of opening up this new chapter and welcoming in the next 100 years. And really, this film festival is a celebration. It's 5 days, 3 venues. We're going to be at the Alex Theater for our opening and closing night. We're going to be at Laemmle Glendale for all of our other film screenings. And then we're doing a couple of panel discussions at Hero House. And so we've got a great program and great lineup. We're really excited about the films that we're showing. I always like to think about, what would I have wanted to see? And Mary and I think a lot about what would we have wanted to see 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And so all of our programming has been with that in mind. And when we built out the program for this year's festival, it was very much taking a step back and thinking about, would we be excited to go to this event? We don't want to just show some short films or show some feature films or have a panel discussion just to have one of those events. We thought very, very hard about each individual event and thought about, would we be excited? Would we be excited to try to clear out our schedule to come to all of these events? And so we think a lot about from an outsider's perspective as much as we can to make sure that we put together a film festival that feels very well balanced and just celebrates all the great work that Armenian filmmakers are making or non-Armenians are making about the Armenian culture. So we're really excited about the program we've put together. It's on our website at armenianfilmsociety.com, and all of the events and all of the information for the events are now available. Yeah, I think it's a great question when we think about our connection to Armenia. That's one of the areas that we want to build upon, those relationships. We have a lot of films being made there. We have a lot of productions happening there, and our goal is to be able to create a through line between what's happening here and what's happening over there. Again, something that I feel like has been lacking over the last few years. We want to make it easier both to understand what's happening there, and at the same time also make it easy for someone who maybe wants to go make a film in Armenia and just doesn't know what the next steps are in terms of logistics and resources and how that works. So that's an area that we're spending a lot of time in. We were in Armenia this past month, building those relationships, building those contacts. And part of our next chapter is going to be kind of putting that front and center and just having a better line of communication and making it easier for people to understand what's happening over there. We have a great network and a great community. For us, our goal is, how do we best bring it all together? We don't want filmmakers to feel like they are siloed off, they're working without access to that network and to that community. And so creating a space where, obviously through the film festival, people from around the world can come and interact with each other for a week. Through our virtual events, they're able to get access to a lot of these films and filmmakers, even if they live in another country. Mm-hmm. And then we're building a database, and we're building a community where people can connect with each other on their own through the network that we've built. We want people to be able to come to Armenian Film Society and get connected to Armenian editors, casting directors, cast and crew, because one of the things that we've noticed in the last few years is, people wanting to connect with those people, but not having the ability or the resources to connect with them. We know they're out there. We want to be able to be the bridge and bring everyone together. So some of the initiatives that we are working on that hasn't been announced will allow us to create that space where, whether you're a filmmaker or film lover, you have access to that networking community that we've been working so hard to build. I'm so excited about Armenian cinema these days. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, it's part of the reason why we're doing a film festival, because there's just so much work that's being produced in Armenia. There's so much work being produced outside of Armenia in other countries. And this is the most exciting time for Armenian cinema. We have such talented filmmakers working today, making some of the best films that we've seen, not just Armenian films, but in general. I used to write for Yerevan magazine, and it was about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more now. When I was writing, I was talking about how I think we're going to see a boom, and we're going to see this new wave of Armenian filmmakers emerge. And the reason why I felt that was happening was because digital filmmaking was becoming more accessible. It was an exciting time where I think like more Armenians were getting into the film industry, which might have not been the case 20, 30 years ago. And now I think we're seeing that. We're seeing so many more filmmakers and storytellers. Even for this film festival, all the films that we watched that were submitted were just so exciting. They're so exhilarating. There's so much talent on display. And especially the shorts program that we've put together this year. I think if you're an Armenian, non-Armenian, if you come watch those films, I think you're going to walk away realizing just how great our films are and how talented our filmmakers are. There's so many gems in there. And I think this is just the beginning. I think we're just starting to see just the impact that we're going to make because we're just doing it at a larger scale now. It's tough because I think we still have a lot of work to be done. I'm not necessarily on the ground there and producing films there, but I can see the potential, and I can also see some of the challenges. The main challenges I think comes down to resources, financing, being able to overcome, it's hard making a film, and it's certainly hard to make it in a country like Armenia where we might not have the access that we would have, elsewhere. My feeling was that I can see that a lot of work is being done by a lot of very intelligent people who are working very hard to make Armenia more of a destination. Mm-hmm. I want more Armenians to go to Armenia, tell their films and stories there. I want more non-Armenians to go to Armenia and use that as a location. And we've been talking with a lot of filmmakers about doing that. I think a lot more work needs to be done. But again, I think I'm optimistic, and I think that's around the corner. We just need to invest more, both in infrastructure, resources, equipment, rentals. We need to make it easier. We need to make it more accessible. We want anybody who is making a film to be able to say, well, I can go make this film there, and be able to have a way to navigate any obstacles or challenges, because those are going to exist regardless. But we want to make it easy for them to find what they're looking for, so they're not, if they're not connected, to tap into a network that makes it easier for them to make their films there. Yeah, I grew up watching Armenian films, Gikor and Gdor Me Yerking, and some of these classic films. And I remember thinking to myself, especially when I went to film school, I started thinking to myself, why are we not studying these films? Why are we not talking enough about these films? Sergei Parajanov's films get mentioned, his name and films get mentioned a lot. And I have this story where when I was in film school, my teacher introduced a Sergei Parajanov film, and he called him a Ukrainian filmmaker. And it was very important for me to help him understand that even though Parajanov made films in Ukraine, Parajanov is an Armenian filmmaker. But we've had quite a bit of impact. We've had our films play on the largest stages like Venice and Cannes film festivals. We've had some of the most influential filmmakers like Federico Fellini compliment the Armenian films, and especially Parajanov's films. Again, part of the reason why we started Armenian Film Society was to shine a little bit more of a spotlight on that, for people to understand that, you might know these names or you might know these films, but they might not know the context and the history. Like Barev Yesem, which is a film that had premiered at Cannes many, many years ago. People might know about the film, but they don't really know, the context about how important that film was. And so we want to be able to contextualize, some of the films that have had a big influence, and for people to understand, the impact and the richness of Armenian cinema. We know so much about other cultures through their films and through their art forms. Ours exists. We just want to be able to provide it more of a platform for the rest of the world and even the Armenian community to understand just the influence of it. I think the most important takeaway message for us is the Armenian Film Festival is happening September 6th through 10th in Glendale. It's 5 days, and we invite everyone to come and participate. Your friends, your family, people who love film, people who are interested in learning more about some of the great films that are coming out of Armenia. We want this to be a celebration. We want you to bring your non-Armenian, friends and family as well, and really understand just the amount of talent that we have. We're showing films that have never been shown before, and we want people to be able to come and participate and hopefully walk away from it really understanding that we've got so much great films coming out of Armenia, so many great filmmakers here and abroad, and we're bringing them all together for this film festival, and we invite everyone to be a part of it.